Utah Jazz, who we talk about occasionally on this show,
Right.
are in Charlotte tonight for a Friday night tilt against the Hornets. I might be making too much out of this, and I know that we've had a lot of conversations about the importance of the fourth spot. I think it's pivotal. If the Jazz have any chance to win a playoff series this year, I think they have to have that fourth spot. You know that they're in Dallas on Sunday. You know that. It's a huge game. I think tonight's game against Charlotte is a must-win. This is not a night you rest anybody. This is a night that you bring all the boys to the yard and you just get after it and you do what's got to be done to win this game. And I think that Donovan Mitchell is probably going to have to score probably 30 plus again for them to win. You would hope that Mike Conley plays. I don't anticipate Bojan Bogdanovic, if he is available, playing anywhere near his capabilities. But, Jake, it doesn't matter who plays. I think this is a must-win for the Jazz.
Yeah, I think that, this game, just not even because it's Charlotte, but like the timing of it and basically how it pans out with the schedule, it does kind of feel like a must-win game. And the reason for that is, with you playing Dallas on Sunday, you don't have room for error. You don't have room to lose games to teams that you are most likely better than. And I say most likely because you are not far and away better than Charlotte. And that probably shocks some Jazz fans' ears. But, the reality is you're not far and away better than them. They can beat you, And I think, what I would say about tonight is that, yeah, this is a game you should win. But don't be surprised if heading into the fourth quarter, you're down 5, and you're in one of those moments where it's like, all right, how are we going to react to this? What's this look like? What kind of offense are we going to run? Or are we going to, fall right back into the same old thing that we've always done, which is we're not going to run offense. We're just going to kind of play Don and everybody else. And that's it. And so that's why I think this game is must win, because not only do you need to bounce back and prove to yourself that you're a good basketball team if you're in that locker room, first off. Second off, I think that, with you playing Dallas, you can't afford to lose this game,
No.
because if you plan for the worst and hope for the best, planning for the worst would then be saying, all right, we win tonight, we lose in Dallas. Okay, now we're either tied or down a game depending on if Dallas wins tonight, So that's why I say that's why this game is important. Not because it's Charlotte, not because, they're some team that you just have to beat. This game is a must-win because you can't afford to lose games anymore with where you're at with Dallas. They are right next to you. You're tied. Like, it's neck and neck. So, basically, you got to win every game possible and hope for the best, because that's honestly where this season is at for the Jazz right now.
Yeah, and I think that's very well put. I mean, I think you're not going to have Daniel House. You're not going to have Bogey tonight. And it doesn't matter. I think you have got to anticipate that Donovan's going to have a huge night. And this is a game where I would expect Rudy Gobert to really step up. And, the Jazz keep using the term pick your poison between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. If you stop Donovan, you can't stop Rudy. And, well, show me that. If we're really going to be in this mindset that Rudy Gobert can be a focal point, a center of the offense, figuratively,
Right. He's the center, but then he's the center, and you put all the stuff together and everything.
The center of the offense is the center. Anyway, if Rudy can be the focal point of the Jazz offense, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And if it is truly a pick your poison situation, demonstrate that tonight in Charlotte, because we haven't seen that, and I think it is the weight of the world is crushing down on the Utah Jazz right now. And I think Donovan Mitchell continues to take a lot of heat for being, whatever you want to call it, a selfish player, whatever you. I don't see it that way. What other option do the Jazz have? Because you don't have another guy that's a wanting participant in the offense in crunch time. And when the pick and roll goes away, this team stops moving the ball, and it absolutely turns into Don and everybody else. But what you're seeing is that Donovan Mitchell is passing the ball as well as we've ever seen him pass the ball.
Yeah.
And guys just aren't right now capable of knocking down shots. And it's guys like Royce O'Neal to demonstrate where this team has fallen to. Royce O'Neal now becomes a critical figure as a three-point shooter on this team. And you've got to find ways to get Mike Conley open looks. You've got to find ways to integrate guys like Jared Butler. You've got to find a way to get Trent Forrest playing better, more consistent basketball, because you just don't have options off the bench. You've got Jordan Clarkson, and then you have a bunch of question marks, because who knows what version of Hassan Whiteside is going to show up tonight. Who knows what you're going to get and who you're going to get it from off the bench. So again, I say, what option is there other than Don and everybody else when the game's on the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the option is if we take away the names and we just look at pure basketball, what are you trying to do? Well, you're trying to get the best look possible, the highest percentage look possible. So there are a couple ways you can go about that based on the players you have. Yeah, a Don one-on-one ISO situation, I guess, is a high percentage look. I mean, it depends what the defense gives him, right? But then secondly, I think that pick and roll with a lob to Rudy is an extremely high percentage look. I think that's the best shot this team can get in terms of whether you're going to make or miss that shot, And then third, I would put the corner three, And so when the game gets tight and you're in that moment where you're like, all right, we got to have a bucket, we all know what this team's going to do. It's going to be Don and everybody else because that's what they've shown us. But my point is that I think the next level in I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm disappointed, but what I was kind of hoping for earlier this year and what I was hoping to see this team start to kind of mature into is, okay, yeah, sure, we have injuries, but we got to allow guys to have their opportunities standing wide open in the corner to make a shot. I mean, again, Alexander Walker showed you in small sample size he can make some shots, right? Like Jared Butler has shown you in small sample size he can make some shots. So, cool, Bogey's out and not playing. But how about we run a set where we get Mike Conley open in the corner? How about we run a set here or there? Like that's what I've wanted to see. So all of that to say, when the game gets tight, we all know what it's going to be. It's going to be Don and everybody else.
I know what it is.
Yeah, like I just hope that for the sake of this team and for the sake of Don, in his chances of scoring on that possession, that he uses Rudy, because the truth is Rudy is a phenomenal screen setter, even if the screens are illegal 90% of the time. It doesn't matter if they are or not. It matters what's called. So.
Which, by the way, I thought was fascinating. In Boston the other night, they started calling those illegal screens on Rudy.
Yeah, and they called it last night, too, in the Phoenix game against Jokic, late in the game in a leverage situation.
Yes.
So, I don't know if there's an emphasis on it from the league or what, but I just think that, yeah, as far as the late game is concerned, you don't want to be, I guess you never want to be, but specifically tonight, you don't want to be going to the fourth either tied or down to the Charlotte team. That's not a good place to be.
No, and I think you brought up Mike Conley, which I think the one thing we all forget is he's the Jazz best three-point shooter. I mean, he shoots a very high percentage. For what he's not doing in the paint right now, Mike Conley still shoots a very high percentage from three. I would be looking to get him more opportunities in the corner. And I agree with you. I think that, Don's driving kick game can help guys get open looks because clearly defenses collapse on him. And you're not looking at an elite defense in Charlotte. They're a wanting defense. There's no doubt about that. This Jazz offense should be able to exploit Charlotte. I mean, you saw in Boston that's a suffocating, the best defense in the NBA. That's not what Charlotte is. You should have more room to play ball against Charlotte tonight. And I would expect to see better ball movement. I would expect to see, again, and what's the right way to say it? I would expect to see more offensive sets. More like, hey, let's run offense. Hey, whatever you call it. Hey, 3-0-9er, like
XYZ banana.
2Y your mom, run that play. Run a play. Run high pick and roll. Run double screens. Like, again, not to keep going back to the awesomeness of Devin Booker.
Yeah.
That's my guy.
Yeah.
I'd hit that.
Anyway, motherfucker don't miss,
He
man.
don't miss.
Yeah.
But did you see that last night against Denver, they have sets to run Book off of multiple screens to get him that shot at the top of the key that he so loves.
It's offense, dude. They actually run off, and this is if we're gonna wasn't really trying to go down the whole Quinn Snyder route today because we spent so much time on it the other day. But when we're talking about coaching, I think this is a very valid point, one that I've agreed with and been talking about all season, which is this team doesn't run offense, bro. Even the worst team, because think about it. it does not literally matter whose name is on the back of that jersey on your roster. You can still run offense.
Yeah.
Even if they miss the shot, you can still run offense. Your job as a head coach is to put your best players in the best positions to make shots. And that's what separates the Suns from pretty much everybody else this year. No matter who's got the ball, they're running a set to get a guy a nice wide open look, whether that's Book or Bridges or CP3 running the free throw line last night, or DeAndre Ayton making one from 3. They're getting guys looks that are makeable, that are easier for them. And that's what I feel like the Jazz don't do. And that is a coaching issue, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the thing that makes the best players in this league, whether it's Tatum, like Jaylen Brown was doing it the other night, get in the ball on the wing extended, and he will get to the paint. And whether he finishes or kicks, I mean, it is exactly what Boston's trying to do. What is that the Jazz are trying to do? I mean, usually it is pick and roll, but to what end?
But that's not offense.
A lot of, when you say it's not offense, what do you mean?
What
like
I mean,
you don't like
mean
that,
is,
or
no? Not that I don't like it. Pick and roll is an offensive strategy, right? It's a hey, we gotta, we like the switch that we might get, so let's run some pick and roll here. Versus, hey, Don's bringing it up. We're playing a really good defense, the best defensive team in the league in Boston. How about we run a down screen to get some guys open? How about we create some matchups with the bodies we have on the floor?
But I think that's what the Jazz use pick and roll to do. I mean, you see the Jazz run pick and roll to get into the paint and kick to the corner for that 3. I mean, it has been Royce. It has been Nickeil Alexander-Walker last week when he had like 87 threes in that one quarter. Traditionally, it's Bojan Bogdanovic on the wing. I don't know who that guy is right now. I mean, Royce in the corner is not something that I'm running a play to get.
But my point just is yes, the pick and roll, penetrate the paint, kick to the corner. It's not unique to the Jazz.
No.
Everybody does that. Every NBA team knows how to defend it. That's not anything special.
But the problem is, I also think when you talk about one of the staples of NBA play right now is stagger screens to get guys like Devin Booker the ball for the mid-range, which is you run Devin Booker down one side of the paint, he goes down the baseline, comes up the other side, and his man's got to run through 2 or 3 picks.
Yeah.
The issue is that is designed to get you mid-range looks, and the Jazz don't play in the mid-range really very often at all. They play at the rim, or generally they shoot threes. And so I think part of this is that you don't have a mid-range guy. You don't have a guy that dominates in under the 3-point line. So I think that's why you see so many turnovers in the paint out of this Jazz team, because it's not something that they do well.
Yeah.
So I think stylistically, you see a lot more ISO out of the Jazz because that's what their guys are wanting to do. I mean, I don't know. We've been over this and over this.
Yeah.
The biggest question for me is, can you defend Charlotte? Because that's what's killing you right now. It's not even your offense. You went to Boston the other night and you had no answer for Tatum and Brown. I mean, you can pick the guy on Charlotte, whether that's Bridges getting to the rack against you, LaMelo Ball creating, shooting threes. Obviously Terry Rozier is a guy that is red hot, and when he gets going, he stays going. Like, you have all these guys that you don't really have a matchup for in Charlotte. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how the Jazz choose to defend this club.
Yeah.
And what they're able to do to defend this club. Because that's one of the things that I really worry about going forward, whether it's Charlotte, Dallas, whoever you want to point to. Can the Jazz defend at a high enough, consistent enough level to keep themselves in games? Because this is a bad team when they're trailing.
Yes, they don't know how to play from behind.
That's
just not who they are.
That's a real concern. And again, not to keep pointing to Phoenix, but Minnesota the other night, Denver last night. This team is very good in Phoenix coming from behind.
Yeah, well, they suffocate you defensively. That's how they're able to come from behind. They're able to create turnovers, make you take bad shots. And there's so many times, even last night, where you get into the offense. Whoever the Suns are playing is trying to create these matchups, and the Suns are so good defensively that you've got literally last night with Jokic, it was turning into the Nuggets were trying to get Jokic on Book on the block, and Book was just running away from that while literally simultaneously while DeAndre Ayton was running to the matchup. That's how good they are defensively, that they can switch like that from the weak side. So it's difficult to create matchups against them. And that's how they're able to, even when they're behind, stay calm and just play their game. That's the thing.
And by the way, Cam Johnson's missed his last 11 straight games.
Yeah.
So you're doing it without one of your more dynamic players on the wing. I mean, I'm telling you, the Suns are unbelievable. Hambone says Booker's better than I've ever seen him. I would agree. This is as well as I've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
Gene Stream says Booker, fireman. Cody Strickland says, morning, guys. I believe you guys didn't read my last comment on how we can blow this roster up. I mean, are you sure, Cody?
I don't read the comments, as you know.
When we have people under contract that no one wants and have 0 draft picks, we've covered this repeatedly.
Yeah.
Most of the Jazz top 7 players would be in demand around the league. I think certainly there is a deal out there for Bojan Bogdanovic, Jordan Clarkson. I mean, they've had deals in place for Rudy that they've talked about. I mean, there are guys on this roster. I don't know that Mike Conley has a tremendous amount of value. I mean, you can make trades. There's no doubt. Like, I can't remember who it was on Twitter the other night saying the Jazz aren't blowing anything up because nobody will sign here. The narrative that nobody will sign here is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's tired, and the thing is, what no one wants to talk about is it's not up to the player. You're going to make trades to improve your roster, and then hopefully, the hope is that through some of these trades, you could pick up a pick or two. You know, you could pick up some draft capital to help yourself. But
yeah, I mean, you're going to lose on trades.
Yeah,
you're going to have to lose on trades. It's that simple.
And that's the thing you have to understand. When it comes to blowing the roster up, it's not going to be a comfortable, easy process,
or a 1 year quick turnaround.
You know, I mean, this is probably a 2-season rebuild at least.
I think what you're seeing is this summer, this team will be dramatically changed.
Yeah.
Next year will be kind of a transition year. And then I think a year from now, you're looking at a team that is going to be in position to spend in free agency and be much more available to leverage trades. Because you need an offseason to unload your guys. You need to freshen up the wings for sure. You've got to get younger. And again, I'm not saying Royce O'Neal's old because he's not. But he's just not good enough. He's a bench player on just about every team in this league. And he is a fringe bench player. I look at guys like Hassan Whiteside. I look at guys like Rudy Gay. I look at Mike Conley. Those are all guys that you know who they are. You know what their top end is. And their top end's not good enough to win championships anymore. They're pieces. They're finishing pieces. A guy like a Bojan Bogdanovic is a finishing piece on a team that's really close.
Boston.
He is a guy that has a very limited offensive game, and he's not particularly a good defender because he doesn't move left to right well.
Yeah.
Having said that, you can move him. You can make deals. It's Russell Westbrook and John Wall. Those are guys that have put their franchises in terrible positions. John Wall's got a massive contract that the Rockets are eating right now. The Rockets were able to unload him to the Lakers if the Lakers had said yes. And Russell Westbrook is an abject failure for the Lakers, who could have unloaded him to the Rockets but chose not to.
Yeah.
You can make trades. You can move guys. And we've talked about this repeatedly, but you're going to lose.
Yeah, and you have to be comfortable with that concept as a Jazz fan.
Tyler Hopkins, good morning to you. Devin Booker is a special player. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the MVP. I don't think he's in position this year to win the MVP. I think there's too much, feel-good humanity stories around Giannis.
You're casual.
Who I think is going to win it.
Again.
And I think that Joel Embiid is... Hell, I mean, if the Lakers do anything, LeBron James has to be the MVP of the league, right? I mean, the numbers the guy is putting up is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's too many other good stories around the league, I think, for Book to win it. And his candidacy is far too late. Far too late.
Agreed.
Pinkman says if Jordan Clarkson would be efficient and be able to score 20 plus, it's a win for us. Yeah, we'll see. But efficient and Jordan Clarkson often don't go together. They really don't. Hambone says we really need Bogey. He's out tonight. Rudy Sanchez says, morning, fellas. What's up, Rudy? Good to see you, bud. JJ Mars says, good morning. I always thought the Jazz should have drafted Booker.
Don't.
JJ?
Please don't take us there.
Don't bring controversy here. Good morning to Dario George. What's up? Greg Hawkins, my man. What's up with you? Yeah. Tyler Hopkins says if the Jazz lose this game to the Hornets tonight, the game against Dallas will look even bigger. I think the game against Dallas is massive.
Yeah.
If you go into that game trailing Dallas, I don't have high hopes for that game on Sunday. If you're behind them in the standings,
it's rough.
I don't have high hopes. You need to be tied or ahead. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Pinkman says JC is good on the paint. He's not, though. I like Jordan when he gets to the rim. The problem is a lot of times he tries to dribble into the paint and then doesn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
And so he winds up turning the ball over.
And that's that mid-range that we talk about. That exact play, that is the true definition of the mid-range. That stuff where he drives to the baseline and has that nice little push floater, little push shot there. That's at the rim play. That's not considered the mid-range. The mid-range is, I would say, anything inside the arc to probably 2 feet after the free throw line. You know? Like that's what you're looking at for the mid-range. Anything, like if you think of the restricted area line, the little arc under the hoop, the restricted area arc, I would say if you push out 2 feet, that's probably the max for playing at the rim.
Mid-range to me is free throw line extended, the block extended out, like that's where you need to be able to hit jumpers. That the Chris Paul, Devin Booker free throw line jumper is lethal. Yeah. I mean, it is absolutely
And
lethal.
How about Chris Paul coming back last night as if he had never missed a game? I know the guy's a professional, and I give him all the credit in the world, but it's just ridiculous what the guy's able to do.
And so much for a minutes restriction. They played him deep into that game.
Yeah, he had. That's the beauty of what the Suns have. And this is something that I think is really fascinating to watch for every NBA team, whether it's the Jazz, the Suns, whoever it may be. Like, the depth that comes off the bench is so superior in Phoenix when I look across the league. I can't think of another team who's got just all these guys coming off the bench that do something. It may not be a big contribution, but I look at, like, Campaign. Not a huge contribution. Energy guy, give you like 8 to 10 points, and then see you later. That's all he's got to do. Like Bismack Biyombo. Who the hell thought that Bismack Biyombo was going to contribute for the Phoenix Suns?
Well, look what JaVale McGee does for that team.
Yeah, JaVale McGee, another guy.
You can play JaVale McGee for 5-7 minutes at a stretch, and you can play Bismack for 5-7 minutes.
But listen to the names. That's what gets me. You're talking about JaVale, like a lifetime bench guy, basically, in JaVale McGee, who's won championships and been around good teams and is just one of those guys, and the Suns just have him for like 5 to 10 minutes a night.
Yeah.
And he just comes in and has that energy, and he'll posterize you once in a while, and it just is crazy to me. Like, that's what really stood out to me. Not that, outside of Book and the 49 points and that sensational performance, like what stood out to me is just like, man, no matter who's on the floor, these guys are all contributing and playing good basketball. When do we ever see that?
Well, and the hard part for a lot of people to digest is that Monty Williams is a really good coach.
Yeah. Hell yeah, he is.
He was unemployed for a long time. He was an assistant for a long time. A lot of teams had opportunities to hire him in past. And I think he is...
James Jones is looking real good right now.
Yeah, he has shown you that he is a really high caliber coach. And I think what you're getting out of guys that were largely left for dead.
Landry Shamet.
And short spurts. And I think one of the arts in the NBA is not overexposing guys.
Yes.
And Landry Shamet's a perfect example. JaVale McGee. How the Lakers use Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard has been a nothing. The other night they really needed him to step up, and he led him in scoring. They really, your best coaches, and this is why I say about the Lakers firing Frank Vogel, this is not Frank Vogel's fault.
Yeah.
What's going on in L.A., Frank Vogel's not the problem with that team.
Yeah.
And I think that you're seeing quality coaching in some of the best and worst situations in the league. I mean, Mike Malone, because screw you, I'm not calling you Michael.
My name is Michael.
Michael Malone told a reporter who said, Mike, he goes, it's Michael. Like, okay, Michael. I think he uses Jokic in some very odd rotations and in some very odd minute stretches.
Yeah.
And I think that it's interesting. Teams win and lose for not complicated reasons.
Yeah.
The Jazz are losing because their roster is stale and they're unathletic. It has nothing to do with their coach, in my opinion. The Suns are winning because they're young, dynamic. They've drafted well. They signed free agents well, and they're really well coached.
I hope they pay DeAndre Ayton, dude. I hope they do. I really like what he brings.
Look, I like DeAndre as a player. Defensively, the guy is a liability. And I continue to maintain that if you're a great offensive center, you can play in this league. But you've got to be serviceable as a big defensively. Yeah, I mean, Rudy Gobert, look at Rudy. He's got almost no offense, yet he is elite. He is an incredible defender. And he plays, and he's one of the highest paid players in the league.
I think DeAndre has improved defensively. Now, he's still not very good, right? I mean, he's never going to be, the best
his
guy
defensive
in the
awareness
league,
is bad.
Yeah, I mean, his ability to, so pick and roll situation, he's the big on defense. His ability to play both guys and understand the space is not good. But if you put him on Jokic last night and you tell him, hey, don't foul, but try to be physical with him. I thought he did a good job of that last night. I mean, they were literally talking about how he's basically fouling Jokic without getting the whistle. And that's the art of it, And so I think he's improved in these small areas enough to where it's not like, oh man, like DeAndre is just going to get beat like a drum. But there are a lot of times where you're watching the Suns and you're like, dude, like how are you playing the pick and roll that bad? So it's kind of this give and take with DeAndre. But again, then you have the offensive side where he can knock down a three. He can knock down a jumper. He's got a back to the basket game. He can play pick and roll. Like he can do all this stuff for you offensively that makes the difference for you and helps you win games. So to me,
Bro.
If I was the Suns, I don't know that I'd give him a 5-year supermax or anything, but I would definitely be trying to sign him to a multi-year deal.
They got 38 minutes out of Mikal Bridges last night. He gave them almost nothing other than 22 points.
He's got a deal.
3 of 4 from 3. Made all of his free throws. That's the other thing that the Suns just cripple you with. Their guys make their free throws.
And so my point with the Suns is just, when you look at the Suns, if you're a Jazz fan watching the Suns game, this is what you should aspire your Jazz team to be. Yeah. After the rebuild, or if you want to call it a retool, happens. That's what you should be shooting for, honestly.
And I think this is why you go back to the Dante Exums, the absolute misses in the draft. That's what cripples you. I mean,
whoever you want to point to.
The absolute misses in the draft are what really hurt you because you missed on so much talent ahead of you.
Yeah.
It just kills you. All right, couple more on the Jazz. Christopher Cole, what's up with you? He says, Conley and Gay have to be traded for a young gun power forward. You'd love a young gun power forward. Mitchell Harding. Harding.
Hello, sir.
G'day, fellas. Finally got to tune in live again. Mitchell, good to see you, man. Rudy Sanchez says the Jazz can play defense. They just choose not to. Look at the last 5 minutes of the Nets game when they decided to play defense a little too late. Well, yeah, and I mean, they really competed hard to the end of that Nets game the other night, and that was, by the way, at home without Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I agree with you. There was a I don't know what happened in Boston, and that's why it's so terrifying if you're a Jazz fan. Like, this Jazz team rolled into the Garden. With the idea that they were going to get shellacked. Like, they showed up ready to lose, and they went to Brooklyn ready to compete and fight for their lives. They went to Boston ready to lay down and really just give that game away.
Yeah.
And it's shocking that would happen because you're in a position now because of the way you showed up in Boston where there's a real good chance you're going to lose 4 in a row.
Yeah.
This game in Charlotte tonight is critical because you cannot lose 4 in a row when you're trying to hang on to the 4th. You cannot do that. Edgar Garcia says, if Quinn went to LA, do you think his coaching style would change? Offensive scheme, not playing rookies? Well, the Lakers, and for the record, I don't believe he's going to LA. I think that is a very, very far-fetched idea. But Quinn Snyder in LA wouldn't play rookies because they really don't have rookies. If you look at guys like Talon Horton-Tucker or Austin Reeves, those guys are playing out of necessity. You look at who the Lakers have, it's the Kendrick Nuns, obviously LeBron, whatever. It's the Kendrick Nuns of the world. It's the Avery Bradleys. It's,
right.
Carmelo Anthony. They don't have rookies on that team. What they're missing, the thing that's odd about the Lakers is they've just fallen apart defensively. This was an elite defensive team last year. And they have guys who should be able to defend.
Yeah.
And they're awful defensively. I mean, they are terrible defensively.
Yeah.
Terrible. So I do think he would be a good hire for them. There's no question about that. I mean, I'm telling you again, Quinn Snyder's an excellent head coach.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of fans here don't like him. He's an excellent head coach. James Knight says, I challenge you guys to get through one show without hating on Rudy. How have we hated on Rudy at all?
I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure Giannis is a good defender, question mark. What are you talking about?
Did you say that? This is what I mean. See, I don't know if you're, like, sometimes when you say stuff, I question whether you're being serious or you're joking. Giannis is one of the best defenders in the league, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a like even if you hate the Bucks, and I'm no Bucks supporter, you have to give the guy credit.
You have to respect his game.
And that's why I say, like I just said, that I think I said earlier today, if I'm not mistaken, that one of the best offensive looks the Jazz can get in critical situations that they just go away from is pick and roll to get Rudy a lob. Like, that's one of their best sets that they can run as a team to get instant offense. When you're in that situation where you have to have a bucket, and the defense knows, because this is the thing that no one talks about. The defense knows that Donovan Mitchell is going to have the ball. The defense knows that it's Don and everybody else. You think they're not watching tape? You think that they don't know that?
Well, that's what separates the good from the great. I mean, again, Devin Booker, the defense knew last night. The Nuggets knew he was getting the ball.
Yeah.
He scored 49 points.
Yeah.
You have to get to a point, and I agree with you on the lob. Rudy Gobert, you just throw it higher than the other guy can jump, and Rudy's going to flush it.
Like, that should be a thing tonight. Charlotte does not have a big that can really hang with them. I mean, they have Plumlee, but, like, Rudy really should be able to handle Plumlee.
Yes.
That really shouldn't even be a contest, honestly. Like, the only thing that Plumlee is going to give him trouble on is just simply rebounding. But Rudy is one of the best, if not the best, rebounder in the league. So
the thing that worries me in this game tonight is they're going to go small because that's who Charlotte is. Charlotte is not a big team. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's see. Cody Strickland, I wasn't trying to frustrate you. Me personally, I find no true value for Conley, Royce, or Rudy. So you don't think that Mike Conley or Rudy Gobert has value around the league?
I mean, I think those guys have value, dude.
Yeah, I mean, if you are Mike Conley fits into just about every contender in the East. I mean, the Chicago Bulls would love to have Mike Conley.
Yeah.
The Bucks don't need him. They have Drew Holiday. I look at Philadelphia. I don't know that Philadelphia would need him because James Harden's such a black hole. But you look at teams around the Western Conference. I mean, right now, are you telling me that the Golden State Warriors wouldn't like to have Mike Conley?
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that
the Lakers
wouldn't love to have Mike Conley?
Yeah.
Which is where everybody said he was going if he didn't come back to the Jazz?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a contender in the West that wouldn't like to have Mike Conley. I mean,
yeah.
Mike Conley's a huge upgrade over Cameron Payne.
The Nuggets? You think the Nuggets wouldn't want to have Mike Conley?
The Denver Nuggets?
Dude, the Nuggets would love to have Mike Conley.
The Dallas Mavericks?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're crazy. He would have, I'm not saying he would have, all-star starter $20 million a year value, but there are teams that would trade for Mike Conley.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you now, there are teams that would trade for Rudy Gobert, but the problem is teams around the NBA know that Rudy Gobert's contract is an albatross.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to pay them for them to take that albatross.
Yeah.
My guess is that Rudy winds up in a Washington, Toronto type situation.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that you got to remember is that's a 3-team trade. If you trade Rudy Gobert, that's a 3-team trade. He's making $41 million a year, and he's in the first year of that deal. I mean, his contract is heavy
dude.
Heavy.
Cumbersome.
Heavy. Let's see. Trades for our players cause, let's see. If he was 27 to 31 million, a contract, but not 41. So I don't see any good trades for our players because they're either washed or just a bad pick.
They're not, though. They're not. Okay, you can't be. See, this is the problem. So here's the thing. You can't be. When you say somebody's washed, that's you projecting your emotion into the situation.
Yes.
That's you saying, oh, well, he didn't play well here, so he's washed. That's a bit dramatic. With all due respect, I'm not trying to be mean or hate, but that's what's happening there. Mike Conley is not washed. He's had a rough season from the floater. He's had a nice season from three. You know, I look at Rudy. Rudy is valuable to a certain degree in the league. The problem is the contract, but it is tradable. You have to build a 3-team trade that benefits everybody, and you're going to have to eat some of that contract.
And you're going to have to give up future draft capital to do it, which is really, I mean, it's crippling to you.
It's a ball breaker, but what are you going to do? I mean, again, I've said this repeatedly. Like, I think the Gobert trade, getting that contract off your books as much as possible, is literally the starting line to getting to where you want to go. That is the first thing that has to happen for this team. Because think about it. If you trade Rudy, what does that really signal to the fan base, to the media, the public, even the league?
Yeah.
You're signaling, hey, we know that this duo wasn't good enough. We're starting over, basically. We're reinventing the wheel here and getting a product on the floor that can actually compete at the top of the league. Because whether you want to say this or not, and you've said it repeatedly, this team is an average team right now. They are a mid-table team. That's who they are, and that's not hating to say that. So that Rudy trade is the first step in the right direction, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Rudy's. It's a challenge to trade him. You're going to lose on that deal. Cody said you should have finished my comment about Rudy. We did. Man, why are is there something in the water Friday? I don't know. JJ Mars.
You know what it is?
What?
We haven't done a Friday show in a minute.
2 weeks. Yeah, the last 2 Fridays we've been off.
That must be what it is. Cody's just salty that we didn't do a show the last 2 Fridays, so, you know, he's getting his anger out. It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
JJ Mars says, what does run offense really mean? The Jazz have the #1 offense in the league most of the year.
See, that's a fluke, though.
Thank you.
I love this. Hey, they've got the #1 offense in the league. What does that mean in crunch time? If they had the #1 offense in the league, what happened in Boston? If they had the #1 offense in the league, what happened in Brooklyn? You may have the #1 offense in the league on paper.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, you're an average-ass offense on the floor when you look at these matchups. And the reason for that is because they don't run offense. So to answer your question, what does running offense really look like? Okay, I can tell you right now, running offense is not running pick and roll. Pick and roll is just I can run pick and roll at LA Fitness, dude. Like, pick and roll is nothing special. It's not hard to defend. Frankly, to the guy who said that Giannis isn't a good defender, look no further than the NBA Finals last year when the Suns ran pick and roll. He covered Book and then got back to block DeAndre Ayton, and that ended up sealing a championship for them, right? So my point is pick and roll is easily defended in this league 9 nights out of 10. What's not easily defended is pick and roll, pass to your big who kicks to the corner, swing the ball all the way around to get back to a wide open guy in the corner. That's
I actually think the best offense in the NBA right now is the Phoenix Suns. And why is that? Well, because their shot goes in. They make a lot of shots. I mean, I think they're #2 in offensive rating. I mean, offensive ratings right now in the NBA. The Jazz are #1 at 116.1. The Suns are #2 at 115. Atlanta's #3. Memphis is 4. Milwaukee's 5. Like, what does that stat mean when you're talking about, oh, they have the highest rated offense in the NBA? Okay, cool. But what does that really mean?
Yeah.
They become very easy to defend. Whereas teams like the Suns, teams like Memphis, for instance, becomes more difficult to defend.
Yeah.
Because they have an array of guys who can beat you. And by the way, did anybody see John Morant's out to the next 2 weeks with knee soreness?
Yeah, I mean, you're just resting him for the playoffs at this point.
Yeah, that's something to watch, though, because they're a much less dynamic team without him. They're still very good. But watch that. By the way, the Hornets have the 9th best offense in the NBA at 112.
So
The problem is they give up the one of the most points.
Like, do you see what I mean?
112.
Like, so how many points did the Jazz give up?
109.
So on paper, Jazz fans are going to say, well, we score 116 and we give up 109. Okay, great. That means you're the 5th seed this year. You're the 4th seed this year, right?
Yeah.
And when you play a team like Charlotte, they're scoring 112 points a game. So you really think that hanging on, being the best team and best offensive team in the league is going to save you? Well, it's not. And again, I want to keep saying, I'm not trying to hate, but I really am at the end of my rope with the media in this town and the fan base just living in the stat world, because the stat world is a complete house of cards, right? Because you take one guy off the floor and now you're not scoring 116 points a game, you're scoring 105, right? You when's the last time the Jazz had a fully healthy roster? When's the last time that the core group was together for more than like 5 games at a time?
And by the way, one of the stats that I think is very telling is assist to turnover ratio. How many assists do you have per turnover? The Jazz are 29th in the NBA at 1.57 assists for every turnover. 29th in the NBA. To me, I look at that number and I say, my God, that is not a good number. I look at, like offensive rebound percentage. They're like the Memphis Grizzlies are number 1. The Jazz are 5th. I look at, turnover percentage. And again, the Jazz are one of the worst teams in the NBA, 23rd in turnover percentage. Like, the issues that you can have your offensive rating, I'm good with that. In a generation and on a team where you shoot as many threes as they shoot, they're always going to score a lot of points, which is what offensive rating is.
Yeah.
They're always going to score a lot of points. Knock yourself out. Can you stop guys? And can you move the basketball and create offense? And the Jazz aren't good at doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, the offensive, hey, the number 1 rated offense in the league, it just doesn't mean that much. Stats, the problem with stats is that in a lot of sports, the only sport where they really, truly define or matter a lot, I think, is baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the offensive ratings and offensive efficiency and all. In the NBA, it just doesn't mean a lot. The smaller assist to turnover ratio stats are much more telling.
Yeah.
Like rebounding statistics, like all those things matter a hell of a lot more than offensive rating.
Yeah.
It's one of those stats that I just don't think
doesn't hold a lot of water.
It really doesn't. And the hardest thing is you start understanding that they only have 9 games left. That's it.
Yeah.
9 games. And you're fighting for the 5th spot to stay out of the 5th spot. So that it just, don't fall in love with stats. I guess I don't mean to belabor the point. Don't fall in love with stats. Let's see. James Knight said, "Oh, so Booker is great now? He's been great for 3 years."
Yeah. See, again, here's the thing. You want to paint us into a picture of a show that hates on Rudy and says that Book's the best. When we don't hate on Rudy and Book is the best, right? What the truth is Book has been getting better for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and he's finally taking that next step into what I would say now is superstardom. Now you can say, okay, this guy is a killer on the level of the best in the league. And he's showing that night in and night out.
And he wants it. He's hungry for it.
Yeah.
This is the Jason Tatum conversation we had on Tuesday going into that game, or Wednesday going into that game.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum has taken a massive step forward. But he's also got a bunch of dudes around him that have grown and are capable.
And the point is with Rudy, like, it's not that we're hating on Rudy. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that we're hating. Like,
facts are facts. And James, this is what we said about Chaboy. He blew his ACL out, and I love Joe Ingles, and he was a great Jazz man. Blew his ACL out. That wasn't nearly the biggest problem for Joe. Joe's performance was declining.
Yeah.
And his usage rate was far too high the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But you look around the league, who are the guys who have taken huge jumps forward? Tatum, Booker, Ja Morant, Donovan Mitchell. But what's the difference? Ja Morant is a great example. John Morant's taken a huge step forward, but so have all the guys around him.
Yeah.
Devin Booker's taken a huge step forward, but so have all the young guys around him. You look at any of these guys, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown's taken a huge step forward. So is Jason Tatum, right? The problem is Don's taken a huge step forward. Rudy is not. Don's taken a huge step forward. Bogey and Royce have not.
Mike Conley
has regressed. Donovan Mitchell is a far better three-point shooter today than he was a year ago today. His range is exponentially further. His basketball IQ is much higher this year than it was last year. His understanding of how to win is much higher. But the problem is everybody calls Donovan Mitchell selfish, but what happens when he kicks the basketball? Right now, nothing good. A lot of times it goes for naught.
Yeah.
And there's only so many times you can see that and not get frustrated with it. Donovan Mitchell is growing and taking steps forward. And the guys around him are not capable of that. They're at their ceiling. I think Rudy Gobert is at his offensive ceiling.
Yeah.
I don't think you can ask this guy to grow offensively. He's grown defensively. There's no doubt about that. But he hasn't grown offensively. So you
can say we're hating, but we're not. Like, it's just the reality of the situation, dude.
Yeah. Leonard Donnan and Endelove. What's up? Love you. Says, morning, guys. Love the show. We back. Yo. Tanner says, morning, guys. What's up, Tanner?
Hey, guys. Hey, where the hell is Jeremy Bolton?
I don't know. There's Jeremy Bolton.
My guy.
On cue.
I want my boy in the comments.
Hey, guys.
On cue. He says, morning. What's up? What is up with it? Awesome.
Oh, that was great.
That was great. What do you like about the NBA right now? Like what? Because I think the NBA is wildly entertaining. Watching that Suns game last night, I stayed up late to watch that Suns game last night.
Yeah, getting up this morning was a joke.
Between two Western Conference heavyweights, and you're watching them go blow for blow. That was
playoff
fun basketball.
Man, it's playoff basketball.
It really was. That was a fun game to watch last night.
I think the other things I like in the league right now are, who doesn't like when the Lakers are bad, right? I mean, it's enjoyable to watch them struggle, but at the same time, like, I'll be really curious to see what the comeback looks like. I mean, I think the conversation. This is for a different day, but I think the conversation around how long LeBron James is going to wear a Laker jersey is really fascinating.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Where does he finish his career? Like, I know when he went to LA, it was, hey, I'm going to finish here. But the fact is I know he's going to do anything it takes to play with Bronny. So that'll be really curious. I think.
Who's the dead last team in the Western Conference? The 10th spot in the Western Conference is currently occupied by.
Yeah, the Lakers.
The LA Lakers.
Yeah. And it's a game and a half, isn't it?
And no, they're tied. But New Orleans has the tiebreaker. They beat the Bulls last night, who are just skydiving. I mean, diving
they ran
to
out
the
of
ground.
gas, dude. Ran out of gas.
I mean, the Bulls are in the 5th spot now. They were number 1. They're 5 out, 42-31. But you look at the West. You know what I like about the West? We get Dallas at Minnesota tonight.
Yeah.
Huge game.
The West has just gotten better. I mean, there's no other way around it. Like, the fact that Minnesota is a good team now is crazy, and everyone's gonna say, oh well, they're the 7th seed or whatever the hell they are. I mean,
yeah.
They're this low seed. Well, I got news for you. They've been a damn good team since the All-Star break, and they will happily beat you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, if the playoffs started today, the Jazz would be in the 4, Dallas would be in the 5. It'd be Golden State, Denver. I mean, the play-in tournament would be New Orleans and the Lakers, Minnesota and the Clippers in the 7-8, which I think is Vettel will not race in Saudi Arabia Sunday.
Yeah.
How about that? The Bears signed another shitty quarterback. Trevor Siemian.
He's just a hack.
Reaches a 2-year deal with the Bears.
Neat. That's really great.
God.
Can we get the Arlington Park jerseys out yet?
Shut up. How about Boston versus Chicago in round 1 of the playoffs right now?
Great matchup.
I mean, that's what I love about the NBA.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so passionate about the NBA. It'll just be interesting to see how all of this plays out. I think one of the more interesting things that you guys do on this show every day is you hit subscribe and try to win a PlayStation 5. So what? It seems like there's a problem.
Interesting, man.
That is interesting, man.